Can you just tell me a little bit about your background in education and your journey as a transgender woman in education, specifically in Florida?
So I don't even know where to start. So I've always wanted to be a teacher my entire life. It's always been something I'm passionate about. It's what I've had my mind set on since I was a little kid. Um, and so I went to college at USF, got my degree in math education, and I actually started teaching at my high school, Leonard High School, shout out, that I graduated from. And so I was able, so I've been there for about 3 years now. This is my third year teaching. Um, and yeah, I love it. It's amazing. It's everything that I could dream. Everything I did dream about, it is now that I am a teacher. Um, as far as being a transgender teacher, the I don't even know where to begin. Teaching is extremely difficult to do it well. Um, and the laws that the state of Florida have been passing and the way that they have been talking about transgender people, specifically transgender teachers, it's making my job harder. It's not allowing me to be myself in the classroom. It's taking away my identity, taking away my respect, both of myself and my peers and students. And so that's extremely draining and that's extremely tough, especially in an education system that we're kind of behind the ball a little bit. And, there's so many of us that are working tirelessly to help these kids learn. And, to have to deal with the state demonizing me has been extremely challenging. And, I'm here every day. You keep going. And, but yeah, it's definitely been super difficult to say the least.
Right. And a lot of people, they read headlines about trans teachers, about transgender, about the woke ideology in school,
Hmm.
things like that. You're in the classroom with the kids. What are some of your personal experiences that you've seen when it comes to how kids are responding to the LGBTQ movement and a lot of the headlines? Are they corresponding with what's happening in classrooms or no?
So that I think is the big thing. I think there's a huge misconception that transgender people who happen to be teachers are teaching their kids about being trans every single day. I spend all of my time teaching my kids math, trying to get them to school, getting them focused on their studies, on their big EOC that we just took yesterday. I rarely, if at all, spend any time educating them about me or talking about LGBTQ issues. I have a pride flag in my room. I never tell them why. If a student asks and, wants to have a conversation, then I'll openly share that, but I'm not teaching my kids anything. Or besides math. And so I don't know how to gauge, because I don't sit there and have those conversations with them. Hey class, this is my lawsuit. How do y'all feel about that? That never comes up. It's, hey class, we got some math we need to learn today. Can you please pay attention? Um, and on the other side of that, like how the kids respond, it's kids are kind. They're pure. That's like the whole part of kids. And if you treat kids with kindness and love and respect, they will love and respect you back. That's the way life should work, and kids understand that. And I don't need to indoctrinate or do anything to my kids to get them to respect me. I need to respect them. And so that's how that and they do. They do respect me. They know that I care about them. They know that I'm invested in their success as a learner. And so over the course of, the year or however long I know these kids, they learn. They're like, I've had a couple kids tell me, hey, I thought that, I've heard some stuff about trans whatever this, but you're just like a normal person. And I'm like, yeah, I am. I am just like a normal person. You got it. And so that's been really awesome to see for sure.
All right. And as far as parents, has there been any Have you ever had any issues with parents? Are they mainly supportive?
Um, I the I'm sure I have many, very many supportive parents, but I never hear from them because anytime I'm talking with a parent, it's 100% always about their student and their grades or their attendance or what have you. Um, there have been parents that have had that have been lied to about what transgender teachers even are, and they don't want their kid in my class. Um, and that's definitely a tough pill to swallow, being judged before you've even had a conversation with me. Um, and I rarely get to hear from those parents. Normally it gets handled through however it gets handled. Um, but even if I know a kid doesn't support me, it doesn't change the way I treat them. I'm still their teacher. The kid could come in and tell me one day, I think being gay is crazy and I don't agree with it. I'm still your teacher. I'm still going to try and teach you math. I'm still going to care about you. Um, so yeah, although it certainly does hurt to understand that there have been parents and there will be parents and students that quote unquote disagree with my quote unquote lifestyle. Um, but it doesn't change my actual interactions with the kids, nor should it.
You touched on this a little bit before, but diving into it now, the lawsuit, obviously a big deal. What sparked it?
What sparked it is we were told, me and my faculty and staff, we were told by new Hillsborough County policy that and law that transgender teachers were unable to go by their quote unquote incorrect pronouns. Meaning that I would no longer be able to call myself she, her, something that I was prior to being hired in Hillsborough County 3 years ago. Female is on my driver's license. Katie is on my birth certificate or on my, excuse me, on my social security number, and so having those taken away, I went through like an adjustment period of like, hey, I'm only 25. How do you do this? Like how do you fight injustice? I had to educate myself on like how do laws even work? Who are the people I need to talk to? I spoke with my principal and my administration staff. I spoke with many people from the Hillsborough County School Board, just seeing what can I do? Because, I was always taught that bad things happen when good people do nothing. And, if I have the ability to kind of stand up against something that I think is wrong, then I have a responsibility to stand up for something that is wrong. This is from Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility, and I take that seriously. Um, and so I was fumbling my way through conversations. Hey, talk to this person until I met up with my legal team and they've been absolutely amazing and have taught me so much. And because of their efforts, we won our preliminary injunction, meaning, for the duration of the case, what was it, a couple weeks ago, I'm now able to go back to being Miss Wood and calling myself she, her. And and that's awesome. And the day I got the news, the very next day, I wrote back Miss Wood on my board, and all my kid or a few of my kids came and they're like, "What's that?" And I was like, "It's something good," you know. And and so yeah, that's kind of like that's how I got into it, is just wanting to stand up for myself and others who can't or don't know how to.
All right. And during that period, you said you went to your board and wrote Miss Wood. What were you going by as when you weren't allowed to go by what you were preferred? And how did you navigate communicating that with students?
So I was given the option. I could either go by coach, teacher, or mister. I'm not a coach and I'm certainly not a mister. So I settled with teacher begrudgingly. And that was definitely a huge adjustment period. Teachers normally reserved for non-binary adults. That's their title that they like to use. And I'm not. I'm a transgender woman. And even kids don't understand the nuances of that, so they're like, teacher, what, you're yes, you're a teacher. That's what you're here for. And it was many kids being like, what does that even mean? Why did you put that up there? Are you changing your gender again or whatever, whatever? And it was difficult because I can't talk about this, the lawsuit, but I don't want to lie to them. It was extremely difficult to navigate, and when you're talking about yourself, how do you convince your own brain to start calling yourself the incorrect title? So like anytime I'd refer to myself as Miss or she after the case, I'd be like, oh crap, like I could lose my job right now. And that was definitely very scary. I'd be in the middle of, you know, juggling 25 students, half of which could care less about learning math, and I'm giving them every ounce of emotional effort I have. And I accidentally call myself Miss because I'm not allowed to anymore. And right then and there, my brain goes, oh crap. And that can be extremely taxing, especially when you know that it's wrong. I know who I am. That is the whole point of my transition, my journey, is that I didn't know who I was for so long. And after tedious, grapple with my self-image, the way that I love myself and the way that I think about myself, I did find out who I am, and I do love myself now. And to have the state of Florida say, actually, no, you don't know who you are, and we are going to tell you who you are, and you're a danger to kids if you keep telling them that. One, it's not true, and two, it's extremely hurtful.
And just on top of this, there's a plethora of issues in Florida with education regarding teacher pay, classroom sizes, and things like
Mhm.
that. How did it feel having this added on to the regular stressors of teachers just being teachers, especially in a state like Florida?
Yeah, it's another, if teaching feels like a juggling act. It feels like I'm juggling so many different responsibilities. And I know that when I signed up, that I'm certainly not complaining. That's what I love about it. But there's certain things that you juggle, and then there's certain things where it feels like there's a ship with too many holes and I don't have enough fingers to plug them all. And this is just another hole that's causing, my classroom to flood water or my emotional energy to flood. And the way that I teach, I'm hyper invested in my students. Every moment that I'm in my classroom, I need them to make sure that they are loved, that they feel that I care about them, and they're valued. And that can be, I have 150 kids. That can be a lot. And to then have to worry about myself or worry about the way that I refer to myself is just something that nobody has to deal with. Ain't nobody that's not transgender and teacher has or not. Let me rephrase that. A lot of people don't have to worry about what they call themselves, and so I certainly haven't mastered it. I'm very thankful that the judge ruled for us in our preliminary injunction, so I don't have to worry about that in the meantime. I'm very hopeful that we're going to win this case, so I never have to worry about it again. But it is the reality. If we do not win, then I will have to go back and try to figure out how to hide myself yet again. And I don't know how to do that, nor do I think I should know how to do that.
All right. And speaking of your case, I saw that lawyers for state education officials filed an appeal, actually. Could you tell me a little bit about your initial reaction to that?
Um, we knew. My legal team told me that we knew that they were probably going to file an appeal. It's pretty standard as a part of the process. Um, the state of Florida has made it very clear how they feel about transgender people in general and transgender teachers. Um, if if Ron DeSantis in the state of Florida had their way, we would not be in the state. I would not be a teacher. And so them filing the appeal is just another thing that I know that they would do. Um, I did not need this appeal to reaffirm me that Ron DeSantis discriminates against transgender people, and the state of Florida is currently discriminating against transgender people. Um, and so yeah, it's another straw on the camel's back, but we're not breaking yet.
A lot of people, listeners would probably ask, why not just leave the state of Florida? What is keeping you here?
Honestly, that's a question I've had to ask myself. I've had to look in the mirror and be like, what is keeping you here? And this sounds so dramatic, and I'm a little dramatic, but you know, I said I teach at the school I graduated from. I've been in my hometown, Ruskin, Florida, my whole life, all 25 years. And I don't though going back to what I said earlier, if I have the ability to impact change and I don't, what type of person does that make me? If I can stay and fight the good fight, I have a responsibility to do that. And not saying that anybody else has put that on me. That's the type of life that I want to live. And I know that there are many transgender teachers and transgender people in Florida that can't fight the good fight, that have been fired for fighting the good fight, that are scared of losing their job at fighting the good fight. And thankfully I've learned, it's like you got to stand up for what's right. I was listening to Jon Stewart the other day, and he said people always say that the arc of the moral universe bend towards good, but we forget that people are bending it down. And goodness just does not just happen. You have to impact good in the world. And hopefully by me staying, I'm participating in some of that good, both, from the state level, but also like at my school. I want to make the learning at my school better, before I leave. That stuff means something to me. I wear my class ring that I graduated from, from the school I graduated from every day, because that culture that, I'm just as much Floridian as Ron DeSantis. I was born here. I have just as much of a right to live here as anybody else. And certainly if I moved to a state that didn't have any of these laws, it would be easier. But I don't think I can leave knowing that the people that can't. And until I feel I've exhausted every ounce of fight back I got in me, then I think I'm staying put and hopefully rising to any challenges that the state keeps throwing my way.